All right. Welcome to this month's webinar. I'll try to be respectful of everybody's time, but we're going to cover some good stuff today. And I'll try to get right into it, but we're going to discover one of the best places that we're seeing to get good leads and jobs that are 50 to 75% cheaper than a lot of the pay-per lead services that you guys are used to use, refuse to use. I've heard it all when it comes to them. But let's get into it. And I decided to throw this in here too because I heard this a lot more whenever I started the company that you can't get any flood jobs or fire jobs or whatever from any of this stuff. And so we put a few in here. And again, I'm not saying every call or lead is going to be like this, but one of our newer partners, first couple jobs he got, $100,000 job, $40,000 job. Here's another guy, when we were just getting them ramped up, a 3-story water loss, right? Rolled in. And then, some of our guys will text us about some of the stuff they get. 722,000 from 2 jobs. Now, yes, that includes rebuild, recon. I'm not trying to act like that was just MIT. A couple $100,000 and a storm hit for that one. And he was like, "Man, I could have tripled that if I had more equipment." But that's what can be what can happen when you're positioned properly. Is the whole point. And this stuff comes from these strategies, and I'm going to go over one in particular today. So again, I don't hear it, nobody used to ever think this stuff worked back in the day. I think more and more people are now being like, all right, it's 2025. The internet, I think, is here to stay. Maybe I should try and figure out how to leverage it. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in here now because I know sometimes people ping me and they're like, hey, we kind of want to talk to you guys because we're trying to get all this stuff figured out now for 2026, whatever. I'll drop it in the chat. If you just want to talk to us about something as far as growing and scaling and leveraging internet marketing, I'll throw that in the chat real quick, and that way y'all can go ahead and schedule some time if you want. And obviously, you definitely don't have to. Like, I'm gonna try to provide value for you guys today anyway. But we get pinged a lot because you have certain questions. So, and honestly, depending on how quickly I get through this, I'll try and hang around whenever I get through. And if any of you guys have any specific questions, we can go over those as well. Sometimes those end up being, we cover some really good stuff on some webinars in the past, and it kind of helps everybody get value because a lot of you guys and girls might have the same questions, right? So we can kind of go over that. And I almost forgot to. I dropped the link in the chat if you did, like I said, want to get a free consultation with us to kind of, we can snoop around, do some research, see what you got going on, and tell you, see what your goals are, and tell you what we think the best play might be given your situation. So let's get into it. So look, if you can, I'm gonna try to keep this short and sweet, 45 minutes to an hour. So to get the most value, try and pay attention. Dino, you get a get out of jail free card, I guess, because you're local to Charleston, you're driving. Just pay attention to the road. But yeah, I'm gonna try to get you guys some good information. So let's just I'll try to get the most out of it. So we kind of have a whole system that we deploy for our clients. Restoration companies, some of our guys do construction, remodeling too, other stuff. But water, fire, mold is kind of our our bread and butter, and it has been, right? And so we kind of talking fishing poles, and we kind of put different poles in place to catch more fish. And today we're going to talk about, local service ads, Google guaranteed, now Google's wanting to call it Google verified. I mean, just Google being Google. But we'll talk more about that. But this is just kind of part of our whole system that we deploy when it comes to growing and scaling and ramping up, right? So we're going to focus in on one of those, and I typically like to do one of these a month to kind of do a deep dive on one aspect of this system. So we're going to cover, why I think it's a no-brainer, kind of how it works, how you can get started, some things you can do to, rank at the top, because if nobody's seeing it or clicking it or calling it, it's not going to do you a whole lot of good. But I'll try to, we can do this at the Q&A too, because this is something that still boggles our mind. Is it like, yes, this is Google's pay per lead platform. But if you understand the numbers and your numbers, and again, this fishing pole, as I like, we call them fishing poles. So yeah, Lee, you're gonna love the metaphor we use here at the company. The more poles you put in the water, the more fish you're gonna catch. Restoration is the lack of consistency is a problem everybody has to deal with all over the country. Now there's ebbs and flows and hurricane season, winter storms, yes, but TPA volume might be down, whatever, right? There's always ebbs and flows. We always want more consistency. And if done properly, this fishing pole, you can scale up pretty nicely, which I'll show y'all an example here towards the end. But it's not easy either. Like, that's what's hard, is everybody, like, if anybody, well, I feel bad for you guys too, because everybody's, I'm sure 100% of y'all have probably been burned by this stuff before, unfortunately. But I'm telling you, it works. So that's what we're going to go over. But it's not easy and it's not perfect. So that's some of the stuff we're going to cover. And this is about you guys, not me, but maybe there's some people on here that have been on in the past, but I'm the founder and CEO of Restoration Marketing Group. Grew up in construction, worked construction sales. Before I started doing all this, construction and restoration, and it tends to lag in the technology side of things. So I used to bring this up to my boss. They're like, Jamie, nobody's going to call from the internet. We don't need, and I'm like, are y'all serious? And I was like, y'all are going to get left behind, but I'm not. So here we are, right? I started the company, and that was years ago. And like I said, water, fire, mold has kind of been our focus ever since. But I come from like the general contractor, subcontractor, commercial construction world. A little different. But any of you guys that do rebuild, recon on the bigger stuff, I used to help build hospitals, schools, like big stuff. So that's more my familiar. I didn't, work on any job sites doing the actual MIT stuff. But I've been on job sites is the moral of the story. So we're not, I'm not just winging this and being like, hey, maybe like we've been there, done that for a while now. And again, we're not perfect. We don't have all this figured out because it's ever changing, but just wanted to bring that up. And then, like I said, we generate thousands of jobs a year and we track it. So again, this is from real world experience all across the country and Canada. Any Canadians on here? We got restorers up there as well. But yeah, so here we go. Let's get into the good stuff. So what most of y'all have probably heard, because this has been out for a few years now, right? And y'all can put it in the chat if you want it, but I don't want to make I was gonna say put in the chat if you haven't heard of it, but if you don't want to, it's because here's the thing. People are like, oh yeah, like if somebody calls in, hey, how'd you hear about us? Google, right? If you ask somebody, they'll just say Google. Well, there's many different fishing poles, as we like to call it, on the first page of Google, where most of the magic happens, right? So today we're going to talk about local service ads, the pay per lead part. So here's an example on my screen. Restoration companies near me. These at the top are what we're talking about today. It says sponsored, and Google actually removed this Google guarantee green check mark thing. Maybe we'll look at that later on. But the stuff at the very tip top is the pay per lead through Google platform. Okay, so that's what we're referring to today. Now, and again, some of y'all probably tried it, maybe it didn't work. I can maybe give you some insight, like I said, during Q&A, maybe why that is, because it ain't easy and it's tricky. But you know, to all my non-believers out there that, you know, I was poking around earlier. I was like, you know what I should do? I'm gonna screenshot one of our accounts. And again, this is for all you people that don't. So this is one of our partners. He spent 185,000 just this fishing pole. He's hired us, and this is actually just one of his locations. We're helping him expand all across the country into different states. And again, yes, they know what they're doing. It's a multi-million-dollar operation. They do rebuild recon, but I mean, this is what it takes. And like people are like, oh, you know, I got $300 a month. I want to hit 5 million this year. And we're like, dude, this is a big boy, big girl game, but you can make millions. And again, I'm not guaranteeing you're making millions or anything, but I'm telling you, this stuff works. And even with this particular client of ours, we didn't scale this hard at first because he was like, man, Jamie, like, you know, the lead quality, I'm not quite sure. And I was like, man, like, it's not perfect, but we can scale this. And I was like, if you're good on the phone, you have a sales team, you know how to follow up with leads, you can make a fortune with this. And we kind of built up through, I mean, he's been with us for a few years now at this point. But at first he was like, oh, I don't know. And I'm like, fine. I mean, we don't have to do it. I'm just telling you, this works. If you don't want to do it, fine. But then finally, you know, now he's at a point, he'll text it, he'll be like, crank it, right? And we turn it up. But here's the part, $209 average lead cost. Now, this particular client of ours, he's doing water, fire, and he does some remodeling stuff. But he is willing, and this is what I tried. This is what, if y'all don't listen to anything else I say the rest of the webinar, listen to this though. Because at first he's like, man, I don't know. And I was like, listen, $209 for an exclusive lead. You're paying 33 Mile 800 plus already. Tell me why you don't want to do this. And he's like, well, all right, let's see how it goes. And then finally, like I said, once it clicks, this is why he's trying to spend $250,000 a year just on this fishing pole alone, right? And again, we're doing other fishing poles as well. But he had to get used to this type of thing too, because any of you on here that work with TPAs or referrals, like, yes, these take a little bit more work to close, but you know, that's business, that's life. Like, get used to it, or just don't do it, right? Like, we're gonna be sending this stuff to somebody, so it's like you learn how to handle it or not. But because we actually, I'm thinking of another big client we have. Man, they're big. Actually, our biggest client, but they work with TPAs. They do rebuild recon. They haven't really learned how to handle, because they're like used to getting jobs, not working the leads. And so we're helping them scale up too, but we're not going that hard because, like, man, y'all don't even know how to handle the phone call yet. So this is just, like I said, I just want to show y'all that this is like potential. And again, not every market would be able to sustain this. So I want to be clear there. I know some of y'all might be in smaller markets, like this ain't happening, and that's stuff we look at on the calls to kind of see where you're at, what's your market, and what's the potential there. And I did pull, this is a different one, but see, look how cheap this guy was getting leads. Let's see, 4229 divided by 47, $90 a lead. And I mean, that's abnormal, to be completely honest. Like, it's normally not that cheap at all. So this is why at the end of the day, you got to fire it up, and then we can see how Google, because it depends on like what's the competition. Is there 500 stores, or is there 4? Right? It's a bidding system, just like pay-per-click a little bit. So that's why it'll vary in your market. But like I said, and we'll cover more of this in a minute. I'll give y'all some averages and some ranges. But yeah, people are still using Google for anything home service related. Yes, like AI is coming in the mix. We can talk a little bit more about that, but local service ads are at the top. And because Google is a for-profit company, they want to make money. So that's why they're putting it at the top, right? Is one, I mean, yes, there's still pay-per-click and all that. But here's a key note too. It's for high buyer intent keywords. Now, what we're seeing is for more research-based searches, AI overviews are starting to show up, right? And we'll talk more about that in a minute as well. Because remember, at the end of the day, though, we want high buyer intent leads, meaning somebody's house flooded, they need help. We want to connect you with them, not somebody being like, well, I may or may not have a water problem. It was, over 10 months ago. I don't know. And I'm renting. I don't even own the house. Y'all don't want that. We know that, right? But sometimes some of that stuff come through. Yes. And again, that's life, that's business. It happens. But there's a way to dispute that type of stuff too, which I'll get into in a minute. And it's basically all over the country. I should have put Canada in here too. But it's probably in your market. Like I said, unless you're in the middle of nowhere in North Dakota, this should be active in your market at this point. So how does it impact the search results? And again, this is for, remember, because this is, it's funny, I did this webinar. I don't remember the last time I did it, but the AI overview stuff was not happening the last time I did it. And that's what happens, right? Is this stuff evolves, it adapts. But what this example I'm showing you here, this is still happening for high buyer intent searches, right? So this example is flooded basement repair, local service ads at the top, Google ads or pay-per-click below it, Google Map Pack or Google Business Profile, and then we got SEO organic below that. Now remember, yes, for different, more low buyer intent research-based stuff, the search may look different. And it might not look like this. It'll show an AI overview. So that's what, well, yeah, here we go. So I just did, how much does water damage cost to fix, right? That's somebody doing research, just wondering, more education-based. So this is a AI overview snippet right here. And I'll probably do another webinar on that in January, I'm thinking. I did one a month or two ago, but there's a lot happening in that world, so I'll do another one on that. But and then for everybody on here, because this still, I mean, hell, I can't even remember what it's called halftime because it's I hear so many different things. But Google guaranteed, Google screened, licensed, verified by Google. Like Google wants to call it Google verified now. Right? Now, y'all might have heard of like local service ads, Google local service ads, Google local services. I mean, there's literally like 10 variations, but all of that is referring to Google's pay per lead platform. All right. So I just left it on here as Google Local Services, but I just wanted to put that there so y'all understand what we're talking about. So you have to do the application. You have to you have to submit your licenses for the type of work you want to do. You have to do a background check. You have to submit a COI, like your certificate of insurance, for the make sure that you have your insurance on your business. And then once approved, we are seeing anywhere from 30 to about 350. I think is about the highest right now. I think in some of these markets it pushes up to 375. But again, it varies. And I know it's annoying, but the point I want to drive home on it in the markets where it's 350 for a water lead, I can almost promise you 33 miles charging 1,000. So that's where I'm like, it's 75% off. The same type of lead. So why would you not get as many of those as you physically could handle? Right? That's the point. That's what I'm like, when people are like, I don't want to do it, and I'm like, yeah, all right, fine. If I could do it for those people, I would. Because I'm like, dude, I'll take it. It's arbitrage. It's 75% off. And again, as long as you have your sales systems dialed in, you should be able to make some money from it. But yeah, so you do have to get checked by Google though, because they're gonna back the Google guaranteed part. And I mean, don't hold me to this because they might have changed this, but last we looked, Google's backing you up to $2,000 on behalf of the person, the consumer. Like, if you come in and do a water damage job, like Google's guaranteeing that work for them up to $2,000. Now, the only way they're doing that is for you. They want to make sure you're legit and do quality work, etc. So that's the reason for the background check, the insurance, the licensing, and all that. So you have to have your ducks in a row is the moral of the story. So there's that part. And then, you're charged per lead. And I didn't put this on there, but you can do phone calls, text messages, and emails. And the emails and text messages are typically a little cheaper. So that's good because we all know that, those are lower quality leads than a live phone call. So Google takes that into consideration. You set a weekly budget, and then you can kind of just do the math, right? 3,600 divided by 900, 180 a day. At a $90 cost per lead average, that's 40, or 10 a week, 2 per day. Now, just because you set the budget doesn't mean you're going to hit it. That's the downside to this. Because, some of y'all are like, well, man, I'll just do this and nothing else and scale to the moon. Yeah, we all would if it was that easy. Some can scale further than others, but those are things we do for our clients as we watch it and we optimize it and we push it as hard as we can and as hard as the client can handle it. But we also do other fishing poles in the water because usually our partners and clients can't hit their growth goals from just one fishing pole in the water alone, right? And then you can't really dispute leads now. You can mark them based on a satisfactory level, which I'm going to get into more in a minute. And the calls are recorded. Google's not going to charge you for spam, salespeople outside of your service area, something you don't do. Now, this system isn't perfect, though, and it's tricky. I mean, I think our clients sometimes get credits for the leads that they probably shouldn't have gotten credit for. And then sometimes they don't get credits. Like, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good enough to work out. And for our clients, like, we listen and do all this for them, so I don't have to mess with it. But you can do it yourselves as well if you want to. But the cool thing is you can, if it's not a good lead, you can dispute it with Google and usually get your money back. That again, that's why I'm like, I don't understand why people would want to do that. it's just a, I don't want to say a no lose situation, but it's a it's a no brainer in our eyes. And typically, it's a cheaper cost per lead than pay per click. It's higher quality than Angie's and Thumbtack and all of that. Um, because and again, don't hold me to this. I know those companies are always changing their models, but based on what we used to hear, Angie's and Thumbtack, like sometimes they'll sell the same lead to multiple restoration companies. So with these, if somebody calls, like they're not gonna. I mean, yeah, they could hang up and then call your competitor technically, and sometimes that might happen. But if it's like an emergency water job, and you handle the call properly, they shouldn't want to call anybody else, and you should have somebody on the way to the job to close it, right? And some of it will be, price shopping ish. I mean, that's more on the mold or remodeling side. But there is some ways to kind of qualify those people out. Um, but again, welcome to business. Like we all, like every business has to deal with, like there's a range of the quality of lead and company and person that calls, right? Like that's natural. Yes, we all want higher quality, but sometimes those low quality and high quality will come through the same source. That's what we just have to get used to. And if you can't, like, and that's the point that, like, a lot of people just think, like, oh man, I can't. It's like, fine, just don't then. What are you gonna do? Well, I don't know. Well, all right, that's just welcome to business. And we've seen that a lot with the guys and girls that have only worked at TPAs and all that. Is like, we're like, dude, no wonder they just been giving you jobs. You hadn't had to do anything. Like, yeah, sometimes in business you got to handle the call properly. You have to follow up. You actually have to sell somebody. Like, sorry, but like that's kind of how this goes. Um, so I don't mean to go on tangents about that. I get passionate about that because I've just seen, oh, we've run into that a decent amount. But we try to help our clients navigate that too, so they can scale up, like I showed you. Because at the end of the day, we want y'all to make money from this and help the people out that have problems. But yeah, I mean, and you can get a killer ROI from it. But again, it's not perfect and it's not easy, and this isn't a 2-day thing. So that's the tricky part. But these are some things to keep in mind. But again, from our standpoint, it's a no brainer. Yeah, and we'll go over some optimization ranking techniques and stuff. But yeah, like I've already talked about how all of this stuff basically. But the cool thing is you can scale up your budget up and down. And if you just type in Google local service ads or Google verified listings, a link will pop up and you can sign up. And again, I put a link in the chat. If any of y'all just wants to handle all this for you, you don't want to mess with it, that's an option too, obviously. I mean, it is a collaborative process though. I mean, obviously we can't take the background check for you. And that type of stuff, but we can kind of help you navigate it if that's what you want. But literally you can just Google local services, and there'll be like a sign up button, and you can start the process yourself too if you want. Now, and this was just this is all the stuff. Yeah, you'll just have to work through the different stuff here. But like I said, it's simple. Like the setup is simple. Now some of the other stuff might not be. But all right, let's talk about yeah, Eric, this will help. This goes into some of what you were wondering. Is everything, I don't say everything, but a lot of the results on Google are proximity based, right? How close is your business to the person searching? That's a factor. The review score and number of reviews, huge. Responsiveness, huge. If you take 3 days to email or text somebody back, Google sees that. And you're not going to get as much love as somebody that gets back to him within an hour. And if y'all just take what I just said and ran with that on your LSA moving forward, it should perform better. Because that's the hard part. Like you actually have to work it, and work the lead. And then your business hours, right? I mean, most of our guys are 24/7. I mean, that's common in this industry. We have a handful that kind of, they're remodeling construction company first, and they just handle Mitch stuff when it comes in. They might just want to stick to 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever, right? We're not gonna force them to do anything there, but yeah, I mean they're gonna miss out on opportunities 100%. Um, and then yeah, I mean if people are complaining and you're getting 1-star reviews, I mean it ain't gonna. It's just you're not gonna rank as high, right? And Google kind of does try to rotate the leads and spin through all different companies. I don't know what the rhyme and reason of that. I mean, we haven't figured out that to a T. Because at the end of the day, Google wants to make money. They're a for profit, and I mean, whether we like it or not, that's just how they operate. Because I mean, what we've seen, and it's like this on the pay per click a little bit too. Everybody, like whenever people are trying to like pause and hey, decrease my budget and turn it off for 2 weeks. Google will never say this, but they basically penalize you. Now why would they? Because they're like, dude, why would I rank you at the top when I got Joe over here trying to spend 20,000 a month and you're trying to spend 2,000? And again, they will try to like circle those in sometimes, but remember they're a for-profit company. So whoever's answering the phone, doing good work, and willing to pay for it, they tend to get the love, right? But Google does like so. I don't know if that made sense or not, but it's just. I mean, I've seen it play out that way for years. It's just it is what it is. At the end of the day, but take care of your customers. Be responsive, and review count is huge. And then some of the things you can do, obviously, spend some time looking at your service area, fill your profile, your services, look at your budget. Now I think I have some screenshots coming up to show y'all what some of this looks like. You want to mark your leads as booked. You want to mark the quality. Was it good lead, bad lead? How satisfied are you with it? Reviews is huge. And then you want to, you don't want like 20 people calling in and you only book one appointment from it. Because Google's be like, dude, because then you're going to be trying to dispute all those leads. And again, Google's be like, dude, you ain't worth the time. You're annoying. And again, they never bluntly say that, but we've been doing this for years and we watch how they operate. We're like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So keep these things in mind. And so I'll show y'all some of this stuff. So when it comes to your profile, open up your budget as much as you can. Make sure if you're 24/7, make sure it's 24/7. Have everything filled out to all the way. Go out as far as you can, service area wise. And then pictures, maybe once a month, put some new fresh pictures in there, team photos, truck photos, before and afters, like real photos too, not some little AI, dinky looking water damage job photo. But real photos and then fresh photos. I mean, every day, like, no, that's a little overkill. But, Google wants to see activity, freshness coming through these profiles. Then from a conversion standpoint, if you have, logo shirts on, wrapped trucks. I mean, we've all seen the websites, the trucks, the pictures where you see it and you're like, that company's legit, right? And then we've also seen things where you're like, man, I don't know if I want this guy or girl coming in my house to do my water job, right? The way you present yourself in the photos will help your conversion rate, meaning somebody looks at your profile, they actually pick up the phone and call. Like, man, this company has, a 4.9 rating, 147 reviews. Man, they look great, professional, branding's on point. I'm gonna give them a call. And I mean, what all that I just said is a factor to increase your conversion rate on all the fishing poles. So just don't forget about that one when it comes to your local service ad, right? I mean, just get the basics in order. There's nothing even crazy here because you can only do so much on local service ads as well. Then in the top right hand corner, you want to market booked, right? So if somebody calls in, it was a good lead. You said, yeah, I'll be out there tomorrow, 2 p.m. to look at it. You mark it booked, right? To let Google know, hey, that was a good lead. I want more of that, right? Because look, remember I said the 85% plus is like a good target to shoot for. They're gonna watch, like, because they want to see what's happening with these people they're sending to you, right? So you want to mark them booked, which means scheduled. If you can, I mean, you can add the customer details. I mean, to be quite frank, I don't know if we've seen where this part, how much that factors into the lead, like how many leads you get or not. Because a lot of you guys, a lot of our clients have their own CRMs or job management systems, or they use ours that we have, they have access to if they're working with us. They track their jobs and all that like in their CRM or lead management system, right? So I don't know how much like, if you have to worry about that one too much. But if you have it, right there in front of you and there, drop it in for sure. And then you want to archive the stuff that didn't come through. And this is the slide. I had to update some of these too, because remember, you used to be able to actually like dispute the lead, as they wanted to call it. Now it's called, if you see on this picture on my screen here, rate this lead. Man, I should have taken a screenshot of that one, but it'll just say very satisfied, and then there's like it goes down, 4 to 6 bullets down to very unsatisfied. So if it was garbage, you think you should get a credit for it, then you want to mark it very unsatisfied, is what it means when you want to rate it. But you want to rate every single one of them, because Google will see that. And usually this is where you can get a credit. And again, you don't always get a credit. Google is just Google sometimes, but a lot of times, because they have call recordings. Remember, they'll hear it. Like if it's outside your service area, or if it's not a service you provide. But you can't be like, yeah, I'll come out there and look at it tomorrow, and then try to dispute it. Google's like, no, I mean, you're going out there to look at it, like we're charging you for it. So I mean, just keep that in mind whenever you're going through the leads. Reviews are huge. I mean, man, I can actually give y'all some data. Yeah, at the end, maybe during Q&A, like reviews matter. We're doing a lot of data like analysis now, just because we have a lot of people all across the country, a lot of different I mean, everything, right? Small markets, medium markets, big markets, a handful of reviews, up to hundreds of reviews, right? I'm trying to think who has, 600, 700 plus reviews. And so we're just looking for the patterns of that. And moral of the story, get as many reviews as you physically can. It'll help your Google Map pack and your local service ad perform better. And maybe the next time I do this, I can probably put some stats around that on average number. Well, but see, the thing is too, we got to look at is like that. It varies on the population too, right? So those are things that we're analyzing just to trying to get more accurate predictions put together for our clients. But number of reviews is huge. Like if you're in a big market and you got 4 reviews, I'm telling you right now, this sucks, but good luck. And that's why we like to meet before, because we don't work with everybody either. Like we like to see your current situation, and then we'll let you know, like, all right, this is probably how it's going to play out, because we've done it, right? We're not like what I showed y'all earlier. The company just spent 185 grand so far, and they got more than 4 reviews, right? I'll I'll say that. That's why they matter though. I've been screaming this for years, and people are like, "Oh, Jamie, I don't know if it matters." I'm like, "All right, well, fine. You don't have to listen to it." But just please take reviews seriously. Bring it up in your team meetings. Let your techs know. Anybody that's going out on the job sites, to capture as many as you physically can. And I already touched on this, but work the leads and mark them through the system. Um, Open up your budget. This one's huge. Like, if you just open it up until it starts spending. And this is stuff we monitor and do for our clients, because you have to keep an eye on it, but it's um there's some slick things you can do here. And I also recommend, so you can set a max cost per lead you want to pay, or you can just say, you can mark this in the local service ad platform, maximize leads, and you give Google control to charge you what they want to charge you. I recommend doing that, because remember, and again, don't you're not going to hold me to this. I'm saying it'll be whatever it is in your account, but usually we don't see anything higher than 350 for a water lead. And we have tested this. I want to say 99% of our clients. Once we discuss this one, they're like, yeah, all right, open it up. We put everybody on maximize leads, because again, we already know, we're like, dude, they're not going to charge you $800 for a call. Could they maybe in the future? Maybe. The cost of advertising always goes up, right? It's just the way of the world. But as it stands now, we're like, dude, you will get less leads if you cap Google. Because if you're only, and again, this sucks, but it's like 33 Mile and all these people have done over the years. And again, it's just business. You say, hey, I'm willing to pay 500. Joe down the street's like, I'm willing to pay 600 for that water lead. Joe's going to get the leads. That's why people are like, man, 33 Mile used to load me up. Now I'm not getting anything. You got outbid, unfortunately. Now, I have heard that they've kind of controlled that, reined that back in, because it's starting to get up to 1,500 a pop in some of these markets. But this is way cheaper than that, is the whole point. So, if any of you, I haven't looked to see who's on here, but if you're currently a partner or client with us, obviously reach out to us, and we'll take a look at your account if you need help setting this up. But get this going, get the background checks going. You want to track it somehow, which I'll show y'all something at the end. One way we do it, we put call tracking in place. You could probably do this with whatever phone system you use, maybe. But you want to know, like, what's coming through this, and then what's coming through the other fishing poles, per se, that you have going in your business, because that's how you're going to get a more accurate gauge on your ROI, right? And then that way you can see if it makes sense for you or not. And if you have your stuff dialed in, it usually makes sense, is based on what we're seeing. So, again, that's just this piece, right here. There's obviously other fishing poles and lead generation things. This isn't all. There's others than this though, but we like to focus on high buyer intent leads. That's usually what our guys and girls are looking for. So these are fishing poles that we've noticed can drive. And again, I'm not saying this will happen, but this is one of our clients, and again, this is just one of the fishing poles we did for him. But this was before a storm was coming through. And lucky for him, he'd already been working for us a while. He was already like rocking and rolling. But a storm was coming through, and I was like, man, it honestly was chaos. But I was like, well, and he was a little bit smaller than when this happened. I was like, dude, you gotta get it when the getting's good. This doesn't happen. This ain't an every year type of storm. And he does rebuild recon too. He made over 7 figures from a storm easy. But he said, he was stressed out of his mind, because this is 170 leads in a month. Now, again, to be transparent, that is not normal. A storm came through, but he was happy he was positioned to capitalize on it. And we're talking that with our partners now about that. I mean, really, we started back in September, October. Like wintertime's coming. You don't like you can't set all this up in January 4th and then the storm hits January 8th and be like, man, why did I get 170 leads? It's like you gotta have you want to be dialed in before it happens. Um, and I mean, yeah, this is I don't even know how his cost per lead so low. I mean that's not normal either, honestly. But I was like, man, I got at least like this is it happens. And again, this is not every day, but you want to whenever the opportunities come through, you want to be positioned. And then something because y'all could build this out yourself too. Sometimes we find y'all ever heard complexity is the enemy of execution or simple scales or all these little quotes. I mean, I'm kind of finding it to be true. But in our CRM lead cottage, like we do have reporting and call tracking in there. But what we also started doing is we track the leads and appointments by source on a Google sheet for our clients, and then we mark them booked appointment or not too. Not just good lead, did it turn into an appointment? Because at the end of the day, like y'all, I mean, yeah, you want good leads, but it better be. And why we do this because this happened with one of our partners. And I mean, this company, I think they're going to do 20. I think they're going to hit 20 million this year. Now they're huge, and they work with They have like they're in tight with some of the TPAs. To be transparent, like what it is. Some of y'all hate them, never work with them. These people been riding it, and again, they're great, but they're seeing their volume drop from the TPAs, right? So they finally reached out to us. They're like, hey, we're going to figure out a way. But so we're helping them navigate, learn how to like answer the phones, get out there. But we track this stuff because what was happening, we're like, dude, y'all's phone is melting. And like, man, we only closed like, I think this came in there, like, man, we only closed like 75 grand. And we're like, what? And then so we looked at this. This helped us. We were like, dude, you got their lead to appointment ratio was off. And so this is where we listened to all their calls for them. And somebody in our team was like, hey, they're kicking people out a week or two. And then so people are like, oh, no, I'll call back. If somebody's and this is like a capacity thing, I get it. Sometimes you have to hire more people, but depending on the job, somebody ain't waiting 2 weeks for you to come out and look at it. Serpro, Paul Davis, whoever, your competition, and again, I'm just using that as an example. ABC Restoration, I don't care. Like if that person's hanging up, they're calling in like, yeah, I can be out there tonight at 6 p.m. Cool. Boom. They just closed that job. But we helped that bring them to awareness, and they're like, and they were like, damn, really? We're like, yeah. And they're like, man, we didn't realize it. We're like, we know. That's why we're bringing it up. So that's where they had to look at their capacity and stuff like that. But so if you're not monitoring, because that's something we're learning. And again, I mean, this sounds so obvious, but it, marketing and sales have to work in conjunction to lead to revenue. Right. And then sometimes it is on our end where it's like, hey, lead quality just seems to be down. Right. And that's why we're looking at the search terms, doing the optimizations, trying to ramp up the traffic on the high buyer intent. And then we can hear it come through on the call. Then we can all listen to the call. How's the call handled? And then this is why we market booked appointment. And then from booked appointment, hopefully y'all are, you can close it. But we've helped some of our clients too, like, hey man, things are slow, what's going on? And we're like, dude, you got more leads than you ever have last month. Let's figure it out. Well, and we showed it to him. He's like, damn, you're right. He looked on his end, his salesperson, so I don't remember what happened. He fired him because it was like a 5% close rate. And we're like, dude, that ain't gonna cut it. Well, from our standpoint. And he's like, you know what, you're right. Fired him, brought in somebody else. I can't remember what I can't remember what he said specifically. But it had to be, well, even 25 is not that good. But that's a 5x bump right there. 5x. So just keep that in mind. Like, remember, there's a lot of phases I should have the funnel. I should make like a flow chart or funnel graphic for that too, because it's not easy and it's complicated. And there's a lot of like things that can vary. But I just wanted like this is a simple system thing that we kind of use that our clients like, because we can kind of just see, it helps us keep a pulse on everything. And then yeah, if any of y'all want to talk to our team about just handling this for you, I mean that's why we exist. But literally, you can Google this and set up yourself if you want, but please track it, listen to the calls. We'll do all that for you. A lot of our people will just work with us for that alone. They're like, wait, you listen and dispute and do that tracking sheet all for us? And we're like, yeah. And we're like, dude, we'll work you just for that piece alone. And like, yeah, we would too. Because we want to make your life easier, not harder. Right. But again, you can do this yourself, right? It's not, we're not saying you have to do it, but that's just some value that we can add. But yeah, that's all I got. I mean, I feel like well, it's 250. I did pretty good. I mean, I know I went on some rants, but hopefully y'all got some value from that. Let me see. Yeah, that's but yeah, well, I appreciate y'all hanging on till the end. I did pretty good on time. Drop some questions in the chat. And look, I'll put this link in the chat again too, if you do want to book a time with us. There are some markets that, yeah, we're not. Because if you're down the street from one of our clients, like that ain't gonna be fair. We don't want people. We're not trying to decide who to put number 1 and 2. But U.S. and Canada are big countries, so we can take a look. And again, we don't always do everything for everybody. It just depends on the size of your company, your goals, what you got going on.